Captain Hyunwoo Park stood on the bridge of the starship Harmony's voice and looked out at the stars. He had been waiting for this moment his whole life. Today, humanity would meet aliens for the first time. After 300 years of looking at the sky and wondering if anyone else was out there, they finally had their answer. The message had come 6 months ago. Strange signals from a star system 40 light-years away. The signals were not random noise from space. They were patterns like music, but more complex than any music humans had ever heard. Earth's best scientists worked day and night to understand the signals. When they finally decoded the message, it changed everything. The message said, "Greetings to the young species of the third planet. We are the Velthak Empire. We have watched your world grow and learn. You have shown wisdom by not destroying yourselves with war. We invite you to join the greater community of peaceful beings. Send your wisest representatives to our homeworld. We wish to share knowledge and friendship." Hyunwoo remembered the excitement that swept across Earth. After centuries of war, poverty, and struggle, humanity had finally proven itself worthy to join a galactic community. The United Terran Federation immediately began planning a diplomatic mission. They chose their best people for this historic journey. Commander Soo-Jin Kim walked onto the bridge carrying a datapad. She was the chief diplomat and spoke 12 Earth languages perfectly. The Federation hoped her skills would help her learn the alien language quickly. "Captain, we will arrive at their system in 2 hours," she said. "I have been studying their signal patterns again. Their language seems to be based on musical tones and frequencies. Any luck understanding more of their messages?" Hyunwoo asked. "Some. They keep talking about harmony and peace. They seem to value order and cooperation above everything else. They call themselves children of crystal and light." Soo-Jin looked excited. "Captain, I think we are about to meet a truly advanced and peaceful civilization." Lieutenant Jae-min Lee turned from his station. He was young but brilliant with computers and communications. "Sir, I am picking up more signals from their homeworld. The planet seems to be covered with cities that float in the clouds. Their technology must be incredible." Dr. Yuna Choi entered the bridge from her laboratory. She was their expert on alien life and had spent months preparing for this moment. "I have been thinking about what kind of beings could build such technology," she said. "They must have evolved very differently from us. Their focus on harmony suggests they might be a hive mind or have very unified thinking." Engineer Taeho Nam came up from the engine room, wiping grease from his hands. He kept their ship running and had worked extra hard to make sure everything was perfect for this meeting. "The ship is ready, Captain. All systems are working better than ever. I want to make a good first impression." "We all do," Hyunwoo said. "This moment will be remembered for thousands of years. We represent all of humanity today." 2 hours later, they arrived at the Velthak system. What they saw took their breath away. The planet was beautiful beyond imagination. It was covered in swirling clouds of gold and silver that seemed to glow with their own light. Floating in these clouds were cities made of crystal that sparkled like diamonds. Ships moved between the cities without making any sound, seeming to pass through solid matter like ghosts. "Incredible," Jae-min whispered. "How do they make their ships do that?" Before anyone could answer, their communication system activated. Music filled the bridge, but it was unlike any music they had ever heard. The sound seemed to come from crystal bells and wind chimes, but more complex and beautiful. Slowly, the music changed into something that sounded almost like human speech. "Welcome, children of the distant star," the voice said. The words were strange but somehow warm. "We are pleased that you have come to us in peace. We are the Velthak, and we greet you with open hearts and minds." Soo-Jin stepped forward. "This is Commander Soo-Jin Kim representing the United Terran Federation of Earth. We come in peace and friendship, hoping to learn from your wisdom. Your words bring us joy. We have prepared a welcome for you on our capital city of Nethara. Please allow our pilots to guide your ship safely through our cloud layers." 3 Velthak ships appeared near the Harmony's voice. They were beautiful, made of what looked like living crystal that shifted colors from blue to purple to gold. The ships moved with perfect grace, leading the human vessel down toward the planet. As they descended through the golden clouds, the crew pressed against the windows in amazement. The cities were even more incredible up close. Buildings grew like crystal forests reaching up into the clouds. Gardens floated freely in the air, filled with plants that glowed with soft light. People moved between the buildings on bridges made of solid light. "Look at that," Yuna said, pointing to a group of Velthak citizens. They were tall and thin, their skin appearing to be made of living crystal. Light seemed to flow through their bodies like blood. When they moved, they seemed to dance rather than walk. They are beautiful. The human ship landed on a platform made of smooth white crystal. A group of Velthak approached, their leader wearing robes that shifted through every color of the rainbow. When he spoke, his voice was like the sound of crystal bells. I am High Chancellor Vexthor. Welcome to our world, humans of Earth. Your arrival marks a great day for both our peoples. The humans put on their environmental suits and stepped onto the platform. The air was breathable, but they wanted to be careful. As soon as their feet touched the crystal platform, music began playing from the city itself. The buildings seemed to sing in welcome. Your city is beautiful beyond words, Hyunwoo said. We are honored to be here. Come, Vexthor said. We have prepared a feast and celebration. Tonight you will see how a truly peaceful civilization lives. The Velthak led them through the floating city. Everywhere they looked, there were wonders. Trees that grew pure light instead of leaves, fountains that flowed upward instead of down, art that changed shape and color as they watched. The Velthak people they met all smiled and bowed politely. Your people seem so happy and peaceful, Sujin observed. We have learned that cooperation brings more joy than competition, Vexthor replied. We have not had war for over 10,000 years. When all minds work in harmony, there is no need for conflict. That evening, the humans attended a grand celebration in their honor. The Velthak had prepared foods that tasted like nothing from Earth but were delicious. Musicians played instruments made of crystal that created music the humans could feel in their bones. Dancers moved through the air as if gravity had no power over them. Tell us about your world, Vexthor requested. We have watched your species from afar and are curious about your development. Hyunwoo and his crew told stories of Earth. They spoke of human history, both the good and the bad. They talked about wars and peace, about art and science, about the long journey that had brought humanity to the stars. Fascinating, Vexthor said. Your species has such variety in its thinking, so many different ideas and approaches to problems. How do you ever make decisions with so much disagreement? It is not always easy, Sujin admitted. But we have learned that different viewpoints make us stronger. When we work together despite our differences, we can solve problems that no one could solve alone. Interesting philosophy, the Velthak leader mused. Perhaps there is wisdom in your chaos. As the celebration continued, Vexthor began asking detailed questions about Earth. He wanted to know about their population, their cities, their military, and their defenses. He explained that this information was needed for mutual protection protocols, in case other dangerous species threatened either world. Hyunwoo felt a small worry in his mind, but pushed it away. These beings had shown nothing but kindness and wisdom. Surely they could be trusted with such information. Over the next several days, the humans shared detailed maps, population data, and military capabilities with their new friends. The Velthak, in return, showed them wonders of technology. They demonstrated ships that could travel faster than light, energy sources that seemed unlimited, and medical devices that could heal any injury in minutes. They spoke of a great galactic community of peaceful species, all working together for the good of all. We would be honored to sponsor Earth's entry into this community, Vexthor said, on their final day. Your species shows great potential. With our guidance, you could achieve peace and prosperity beyond your current imagination. Hyunwoo signed the preliminary agreements with a heart full of hope. As the Harmony's voice prepared to return to Earth with the good news, he felt that humanity had found its place among the stars at last. The future looked brighter than ever before. 3 months had passed since the humans first arrived on the Velthak homeworld. Captain Hyunwoo Park had sent regular reports back to Earth, all filled with wonder and excitement about their new alien friends. The crew of the Harmony's voice had been given comfortable quarters in the Crystal City and were learning more about Velthak culture every day. Dr. Yuna Choi spent most of her time in the Velthak archives, studying their history and biology. The Velthak had been very generous, giving her access to thousands of years of records. She was amazed by their advanced science and peaceful society. But as the days went by, she began to notice strange things in the old records. Yuna sat in the crystal library, surrounded by glowing data crystals that held the Velthak historical archives. She had learned to read their symbol system and was working through records from different time periods. At first, everything seemed normal. The Velthak had indeed been peaceful for thousands of years, just as they claimed. But then she found something odd. The records mentioned other species, lots of them. The Velthak wrote about meeting 43 different alien races over the past 5,000 years. Yuna was excited at first. This meant there were many intelligent species in the galaxy, not just humans and Velthak. However, as she read more carefully, something felt wrong. The records always started the same way. The Velthak would make contact with a new species. They would invite them for diplomatic talks. They would offer friendship and membership in their galactic community. And then, the records about those species would suddenly stop. Yuna found references to the Keftari, a race of small, furry creatures who were excellent miners. The last entry about them was 500 years ago. It simply said, Keftari integration complete, mining operations at full efficiency. There was no mention of what happened to the Keftari people themselves. She found similar patterns with dozens of other species. The Zethran were described as skilled builders. Their last entry read, Zethran construction projects completed, labor force performing adequately. The Mordak were scientists. Their final record stated Mordak research facilities operational. Knowledge transfer successful. Yuna felt a cold feeling growing in her stomach. She searched for more recent records about these species but found nothing. It was as if they had all simply vanished from history after meeting the Velthak. Meanwhile, engineer Tai-Ho Nam was having his own discoveries. He had been invited to study Velthak technology, supposedly to help integrate human and Velthak systems. Tai-Ho was fascinated by their advanced engineering and spent long hours in their technical facilities. The Velthak engineers were friendly and seemed eager to share their knowledge. They showed him how their ships could phase through solid matter, how their cities floated in the clouds, and how their energy systems worked. But Tai-Ho noticed that they always seemed to be studying him as much as he was studying them. One day, while working on a communication device, Tai-Ho accidentally accessed the wrong data channel. Instead of technical specifications, he found himself listening to Velthak communications that were not meant for human ears. He quickly realized he was hearing military transmissions. The Velthak were speaking in their own language, not the simplified version they used with humans. Tai-Ho had learned enough of their language to understand the basic meaning. What he heard made his blood run cold. Fleet preparation at 70% completion. One voice reported. 200 ships will be ready for departure in 30 standard cycles. Excellent, another voice replied. And the human intelligence gathering? Proceeding smoothly. They have provided detailed information about their defensive capabilities, population centers, and resource locations. Their naivety continues to serve our purposes. Good. Once we secure their homeworld, we will have access to the rare minerals we detected in their system. The humans themselves show promise as a labor force, though they will require significant conditioning to achieve proper compliance. Tai-Ho's hands shook as he listened. He carefully recorded the conversation while pretending to work on the communication device. He needed to tell the others immediately. That evening, Yuna and Tai-Ho met secretly in Yuna's quarters. They shared their discoveries with growing horror. The pattern was clear now. The Velthak were not peaceful diplomats. They were conquerors who used friendship and trust to gather intelligence about other species before enslaving them. We have to tell Captain Park, Yuna said, and we need to warn Earth. Agreed, Tai-Ho replied. But we need to be careful. If the Velthak realize we know the truth, they might move against us immediately. The next morning, they requested a private meeting with Captain Park, Commander Kim, and Lieutenant Lee. They gathered in the captain's quarters and shared everything they had discovered. The room fell silent as the terrible truth sank in. Are you certain about this? Hyunwoo asked, though he could see the proof in their faces. I have 43 historical examples, Yuna said. Every species the Velthak have made contact with has disappeared from their records after a few years. And the final entries all mention them as workers or laborers. I heard them planning an invasion fleet, Tai-Ho added. 200 ships, Captain. They are preparing to attack Earth. Commander Soo-Jin Kim felt sick. All those questions about our defenses, our population centers. We gave them everything they needed to plan an invasion. This is not your fault, Hyunwoo said firmly. They were very skilled at deception. But now we know the truth and we have to act. Lieutenant Jaemin Lee was already working at his portable computer. Sir, I have been monitoring our communication systems. The Velthak have been blocking our transmissions to Earth for the past 2 weeks. They told us it was due to solar interference, but now we know they did not want us warning Earth, Hyunwoo finished. We need to confront them and demand safe passage home. I do not think they will simply let us leave, Yuna said quietly. We know too much now. Despite the danger, they decided they had to try. The next day, Commander Kim requested a meeting with High Chancellor Vexthor. She brought Captain Park with her as support. They met in the Chancellor's Crystal Palace, a beautiful building that now seemed more like a prison. High Chancellor, Sujin began carefully, we have been studying your historical records as you suggested. We have some questions about the other species you have contacted over the years. Vexthor's crystalline features seemed to shift slightly. When he spoke, his musical voice sounded different, colder. What questions do you have, Commander Kim? We found records of 43 different species that you contacted. But the records seemed to end abruptly for all of them. What happened to these peoples? They found their place in our society, Vexthor replied. They discovered the benefits of harmony and order. They chose to integrate fully with our civilization. As laborers and workers, Hyunwoo asked bluntly. The silence that followed was deafening. Vexthor's crystal skin began to glow with a harder, colder light. When he finally spoke, all pretense of friendship was gone from his voice. You have been reading more than you should. Captain Park, knowledge can be dangerous for those unprepared to understand it. We understand perfectly, Sujin said, trying to keep her voice steady. You lied to us. You are not peaceful diplomats. You are conquerors. Vexthor laughed, and the sound was like breaking glass. Peaceful? Who told you we were peaceful? We never said that. We said we had not had war for 10,000 years. That is because we learned a more efficient method of expansion. Why destroy a species when you can convince them to surrender willingly? Our people will never surrender to you, Hyunwoo declared. They will not have a choice, Vexthor replied. Your species shows promise as laborers. Your chaotic thinking makes you unpredictable, which could be useful for certain tasks. You should be grateful we do not simply exterminate you like some of the less useful species we have encountered. We are leaving, Sujin said. Now, I am afraid that is not possible, Vexthor said. Crystal guards appeared at the doors, their bodies glowing with dangerous energy. You have learned too much. You will remain here as our guests until our fleet returns from Earth. Then you will help us. Communicate with your people about their new circumstances. The humans found themselves surrounded. Hyunwoo realized that their mission of peace had become something far more terrible. They were prisoners and Earth was in deadly danger. Somehow they had to escape and warn their homeworld before it was too late. As crystal restraints formed around their wrists, Hyunwoo looked at his crew and saw determination in their eyes despite their fear. The Velthak had made one mistake. They thought humans would be easy to control. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The crystal prison cells were beautiful and terrible at the same time. Captain Hyunwoo Park and his crew had been separated and placed in individual chambers made of glowing crystal walls. The cells seemed solid, but the Velthak guards walked through them like they were made of air. The humans, however, could not pass through. They were trapped. Lieutenant Jaemin Lee sat on the crystal floor of his cell, trying to understand how the Velthak technology worked. The walls felt solid when he touched them, but he could see the guards phase through them easily. There had to be some kind of control mechanism, some way the Velthak could make the crystal solid or transparent at will. 3 cells over, Engineer Tae-ho Nam was having the same thoughts. He pressed his hands against the crystal walls and felt them vibrate slightly. There was energy flowing through them, some kind of field that controlled their physical properties. If he could disrupt that field somehow, maybe he could weaken the walls. Dr. Yuna Choi was in the cell next to Tae-ho. She had been studying Velthak biology for months and was thinking about what she had learned. The Velthak were beings of living crystal and energy. Their technology seemed to work by harmonizing with their natural frequencies. Everything they built responded to their crystalline bodies and ordered minds. Commander Sujin Kim was trying to stay calm and think of a plan. As the diplomat, she had spent the most time talking with the Velthak. She remembered how they always spoke about harmony and order. Their entire civilization seemed based on everyone thinking and acting in perfect coordination. Captain Hyunwoo was in the center cell, and he could hear his crew moving around in their chambers. He wished he could talk to them, but the crystal wall seemed to block sound. He closed his eyes and tried to think. The Velthak had made one mistake already. They had underestimated human curiosity and intelligence. Maybe they would make another mistake. On the second day of their imprisonment, High Chancellor Vexthor came to visit. He walked through the crystal walls like they were not there and stood in front of Hyunwoo's cell. His crystalline body glowed with cold blue light. "Your invasion fleet should reach Earth in approximately 40 of your days," Vexthor said with satisfaction. "I thought you might like to know. Your people will have no warning and no time to prepare. It will be over quickly." "You are wrong about humans," Hyunwoo replied. "We do not give up easily. All species say that at first," Vexthor laughed. "But when they see our superior technology, they quickly understand the futility of resistance. Your chaotic minds make you unpredictable, but they also make you weak. You cannot achieve the harmony needed for true advancement." After Vexthor left, Hyunwoo felt despair creeping into his mind. But then he thought about what the Chancellor had said. Chaotic minds. The Velthak kept mentioning human chaos and unpredictability. They seemed to see it as a weakness, but what if it was actually a strength? That night, Jaemin made an interesting discovery. He had been feeling anxious and angry about their situation, and during a particularly intense moment of frustration, he punched the crystal wall. To his surprise, the wall flickered for just a moment. The solid crystal became transparent for half a second before solidifying again. Jaemin stared at his hand in amazement. He had felt something when he hit the wall, like an electrical shock but not painful. It was as if his emotions had somehow interfered with the crystal's energy field. He tried again, focusing on his anger and fear. This time he was sure of it. The wall definitely flickered. In the next cell, Taeho had been having similar experiences. When he got particularly upset about their situation, he noticed that the lights in his cell would dim slightly. At first he thought it was his imagination, but after careful observation he realized that his emotional state was somehow affecting the Velthak technology around him. Taeho began to experiment. He would think about Earth being invaded, about his family and friends being enslaved, and let himself feel the full weight of his anger and desperation. Each time, the crystal walls would flicker and the lights would dim. The stronger his emotions became, the more the technology seemed to malfunction. On the third day, Dr. Yuna made the connection. She had been thinking about Velthak biology and human neurology. The Velthak were creatures of perfect harmony and order. Their brains probably worked in very regular, predictable patterns. Their technology was designed to work with those patterns. Human brains were completely different. Humans were emotional, chaotic, unpredictable. Their neural activity was irregular and constantly changing. What if human brain waves were actually interfering with Velthak technology? What if the chaos the Velthak kept talking about was like static that disrupted their harmonic systems? Yuna started testing her theory. She focused on her most intense emotions. Her fear for Earth, her anger at being deceived, her desperation to escape. As her emotions peaked, she felt something like electricity running through her body. The crystal walls around her began to flicker and pulse. Commander Sujin had been listening carefully to the sounds from the other cells. She could hear her crewmates moving around more than usual, and sometimes she thought she heard strange humming sounds from the walls themselves. She began to suspect they had discovered something important. On the fourth day, their breakthrough came during a Velthak interrogation. 3 guards entered Taeho's cell to question him about human military technology. They wanted detailed information about Earth's weapons and defenses to help plan their invasion. Taeho refused to answer their questions. The guards became more aggressive, using some kind of neural probe that caused intense pain. As the pain increased, Taeho's desperation and fury reached a breaking point. His mind filled with images of his home being destroyed, his people being enslaved. Suddenly, the neural probe began sparking and smoking. The crystal walls of his cell flickered wildly. The guards' harmonic communication devices started making harsh, discordant sounds. One of the guards stumbled backward, his crystalline body flickering like a broken light. "What is happening?" one guard demanded, but his voice was distorted and crackling. Taeho realized what was happening. His human emotions were disrupting their technology. The more upset he became, the more their systems failed. He focused on his anger and pushed it as high as he could. The walls of his cell became transparent for several seconds. The guards tried to restrain him, but their phase control devices were malfunctioning. Taeho broke free and ran toward the transparent wall. For a moment he thought he might pass through, but then his emotions calmed slightly, and the wall became solid again. He slammed into it hard, but the other humans had seen what happened. They understood now. Their emotions could disrupt Velthak technology. If they could all focus their feelings together, maybe they could break free. That night, the 5 humans worked together without being able to speak to each other. They each focused on their most powerful emotions: their love for Earth, their anger at the deception, their determination to save their people. One by one, their cell walls began to flicker and pulse. Captain Hyunwoo felt the energy building around them. It was like a storm of human emotion crashing against the ordered harmony of Velthak technology. The crystal walls began to vibrate and crack. Emergency alarms started sounding throughout the prison facility. Commander Soo-jin focused on her memories of Earth: blue skies, green forests, children playing in parks. She thought about all of that being destroyed and felt fierce protective rage building in her chest. Her cell walls became completely transparent. Dr. Yuna thought about the 43 species that had been enslaved by the Velthak. She felt deep sorrow for their suffering and burning determination to prevent the same fate for humanity. The floor of her cell began to crack. Lieutenant Jaemin remembered his younger sister back on Earth. He imagined her being hurt by the invaders and felt protective fury unlike anything he had ever experienced. The ceiling of his cell shattered. Engineer Taeho thought about the Velthak invasion fleet heading toward Earth right now. 40 days to travel across space. 40 days until his world was attacked. The overwhelming urgency and desperation made the walls around him explode outward in crystal fragments. The 5 humans found themselves free but surrounded by chaos. Alarms were blaring, crystal structures were cracking, and confused Velthak guards were stumbling around as their equipment failed. The humans' combined emotional intensity was causing a cascade failure throughout the facility. "The ship," Hyunwoo shouted over the noise. "We have to reach our ship." They ran through the crystal corridors as the building shook around them. Velthak citizens fled in panic as their perfect city began to malfunction. Lights flickered, walls became transparent at random, and the floating platforms that held the city up began to wobble. Dr. Yuna led them toward the landing platform where the Harmony's voice was docked. She had memorized the route during their original tour. Behind them, they could hear Velthak soldiers trying to organize a pursuit, but their communication systems kept failing whenever the humans came near. At the landing platform, they found their ship surrounded by Velthak guards, but as the 5 humans approached, their emotions still running high with desperation and determination, the guards' weapons began to malfunction. Phase disruptors flickered and died. Crystal armor cracked and fell apart. Taeho reached the ship. The emergency meeting on Earth lasted 18 hours straight. Admiral Min-ho Kang stood before the War Council, his face grim as he studied the reports from the returning diplomatic mission. Captain Hyunwoo Park and his crew had arrived just 3 days ago, bringing news that changed everything humanity thought they knew about their place in the galaxy. "Let me make sure I understand this correctly," General Yoon Young-song said, looking around the table at Earth's military leaders. "An alien invasion fleet of 200 ships is coming to enslave our entire species. They have technology far superior to ours, and our only advantage is that our emotions somehow break their machines." "That is correct, General," Dr. Yuna Choi replied. She had barely slept since returning to Earth, working day and night with scientists to understand what they had discovered. The Velthak technology operates on harmonic frequencies that match their ordered thought patterns. Human neural activity, especially during high emotional states, creates interference that disrupts their systems. Dr. Bo-ram Yoon, Earth's leading expert on neural science, leaned forward. "We have been running tests based on Dr. Choi's data. Human brainwaves during intense emotional states do indeed produce unique electromagnetic patterns. If we can amplify and focus these patterns, we can turn human emotions into weapons," finished Dr. Woo-jin Lim, the military's chief technology officer. "We have been working on prototypes for the past 72 hours. Admiral Kang studied the holographic display showing Earth's defenses. 300 ships all built for fighting other humans. Energy weapons, projectile systems, armor plating, all useless against an enemy that could phase through solid matter. How long do we have?" 33 days, Engineer Tae-ho-nam said quietly. "The Veltec fleet will arrive in 33 days. We barely made it back in time. Then we have 33 days to completely rebuild our military strategy," General Song declared. Dr. Yoon, what do you need? Volunteers, Dr. Yoon replied immediately. We need to test our emotion amplification devices on actual people. It could be dangerous. We are essentially overloading human neural systems. I will volunteer, said a voice from the back of the room. Everyone turned to see Squadron Leader Hyejin An, one of Earth's best fighter pilots. If there is a chance this could work, I want to be part of it. Within hours, word spread throughout Earth's military. Volunteers came forward by the thousands. Pilots, soldiers, engineers, even civilians who wanted to help defend their world. The testing facilities worked around the clock, trying to understand how to weaponize human emotion. The first breakthrough came when Hyejin tested the prototype Fury generator in a modified fighter ship. The device was designed to amplify and focus the pilot's emotional state, then project that energy outward as an electromagnetic field. Hyejin sat in the cockpit, electrodes attached to her head, breathing deeply to prepare herself. The technicians had given her instructions to think about the most emotionally intense experiences of her life. Remember, Dr. Yoon said over the radio, we need genuine emotion, not just acting. Think about something that truly makes you angry or afraid or determined. Hyejin closed her eyes and thought about her daughter. Only 8 years old, she imagined Velthak invaders taking her child away to work in crystal mines on some distant world. The fury that filled her mind was unlike anything she had ever felt. The Fury generator hummed to life, glowing with strange energy. In the test chamber, Velthak technology samples that Captain Park had managed to bring back began to flicker and spark. A piece of their phase-shifting crystal cracked down the middle. It works, Dr. Lim shouted. The emotional field is disrupting the harmonic patterns. But there was a problem. After 10 minutes of operation, Hyejin collapsed from exhaustion. Sustaining that level of emotional intensity was draining her physically and mentally. We need to find a way to make this sustainable, Dr. Yoon said, checking Hyejin's vital signs. The human brain cannot maintain peak emotional states for extended periods. The solution came from an unexpected source. Commander Soo-Jin Kim suggested using group emotion rather than individual intensity. Humans are stronger when they work together, she pointed out. What if we could link multiple people's emotional states? The scientists worked frantically to develop group amplification systems. They discovered that when multiple humans focused their emotions together, the effect was multiplied rather than just added. 5 people working together could generate 10 times the disruption field of one person alone. Meanwhile, military strategists were completely redesigning Earth's defense plans. Traditional space combat tactics were useless against an enemy that could phase through attacks. Instead, they developed new strategies based on close-range fighting where the human emotional fields would be most effective. Captain Dong-Hyun Seo volunteered to lead the first squadron of Fury-equipped fighters. His pilots trained day and night, learning to coordinate their emotional states while flying in formation. It was unlike any military training ever attempted. Think about home, Dong-Hyun would tell his pilots during practice runs. Think about your families, your friends, everyone you want to protect. Let that love and determination fill your mind, then share it with your wingmates. On the ground, Colonel Sung-Hwan Kim was training infantry units for close combat. Traditional weapons would be useless. But if human soldiers could get close enough to touch Velthak warriors, their emotional fields could disrupt the aliens' personal shields and armor. Major Sunmi Lee developed new tactics for ground fighting. We fight in groups, she explained to her soldiers. We overwhelm them with human chaos. When they expect order and predictability, we give them pure human emotion and teamwork. The soldiers practiced meditation techniques to quickly access intense emotional states, then learned to maintain those states while working as a team. It was exhausting training, but they could see the results when they tested against captured Velthak equipment. As the days passed, word of the coming invasion spread throughout Earth. Rather than panic, the news sparked a wave of determination. Unlike anything in human history, civilians volunteered for defense forces, factories converted to military production, artists created propaganda that helped people focus their emotional energy. Dr. Yuna Choi made another crucial discovery while studying Velthak biology samples. The aliens' crystalline bodies were particularly vulnerable to emotional disruption when they were in large groups. Their harmonic communication system meant that if one Velthak's systems failed, it could cause a cascade effect throughout their formation. Their greatest strength is also their weakness. Yuna explained to the War Council. They work perfectly together, but that means disrupting one can disrupt them all. Lieutenant Jamin Lee worked with communications experts to develop ways to coordinate the emotional attacks. They created a network that would allow human defenders to synchronize their feelings across entire battle groups. With 2 weeks left before the invasion, Earth held its first full-scale test. Every military unit on the planet participated in a coordinated exercise. At exactly noon Greenwich time, millions of humans focused their emotions together. The results were incredible. Electromagnetic sensors detected energy patterns unlike anything ever recorded. Even the test samples of Velthak technology, stored in laboratories around the world, began malfunctioning simultaneously. But the test revealed another problem. The human defenders were exhausting themselves. Maintaining combat-level emotional intensity was like running a marathon while solving complex math problems. They needed a way to sustain their strength throughout a battle. The answer came from Earth's athletes and performers. Musicians, actors, dancers, and athletes all knew how to access and control intense emotions for extended periods. They joined the military training programs teaching soldiers how to pace their emotional energy. Emotion is like physical strength, explained Jin-Suk Park, a famous dancer who had volunteered to help train fighter pilots. You can learn to use it efficiently to build endurance, to find reserves when you need them most. Engineer Tae Ho Nam worked with Dr. Lim to improve the Fury generators. They developed better power systems, more efficient amplifiers, and safety features to protect the human operators. Each day brought new improvements to their emotional weapons. As the final week approached, Captain Hyunwoo Park was given command of the Orbital Defense Station. His experience with Velthak technology made him valuable for coordinating the defense. He looked out at Earth's fleet, now equipped with Fury generators and crewed by humans trained in emotional warfare. Will it be enough? Commander Sujin Kim asked, joining him at the observation deck. I do not know, Hyunwoo admitted. But I know one thing the Velthak do not understand about humans. We do not just fight with our weapons or our technology. We fight with our hearts. And when humans fight for something they love, we can do impossible things. The final preparations were complete. Earth's defenders took their positions in orbit and on the ground. Every human on the planet knew their role. When the Velthak arrived expecting to find a helpless, chaotic species easy to conquer, they would instead face something they had never encountered before: humanity. The Velthak invasion fleet appeared at the edge of Earth's solar system, like a swarm of crystal wasps. 200 ships materialized from hyperspace in perfect formation, their crystalline hulls gleaming with cold light. High Chancellor Vex Thor stood on the bridge of his flagship, confident that this would be another easy conquest. Begin standard approach, he commanded. Signal the human government to surrender. Tell them resistance is futile and their cooperation will be rewarded with better treatment. But something was wrong. The Velthak sensors, which should have easily detected all human ships and defenses, were picking up strange interference. The readings made no sense. It was as if space itself was vibrating with chaotic energy. Admiral Min-Ho Kang watched the enemy fleet from Earth's orbital command station. His heart pounded with nervous energy, but he forced himself to stay calm. Everything depended on timing and coordination now. All units, this is Admiral Kang, he broadcast on the human communication network. Remember your training. Feel your emotions, but control them. Fight for your families, fight for your world. Fight for every human who has ever lived. Today we show the galaxy what humanity can do. The first engagement began when Squadron Leader Hai Jin-an led her fighter wing toward the Velthak advance guard. 24 human ships against 50 alien vessels. It should have been a massacre. But as the human fighters activated their Fury generators and focused their emotions, something incredible happened. Hai Jin thought about her 8-year-old daughter waiting safely in an underground shelter. She felt the fierce love and protective rage that only a parent could understand. The Fury generator amplified these emotions and projected them outward as an electromagnetic field. The effect on the nearest Velthak ships was immediate. Their perfect crystal hulls began to flicker and crack. Navigation systems failed as harmonic frequencies were disrupted by chaotic human brainwaves. 2 enemy ships collided when their pilots lost control. It is working, Captain Dong-hyun Seo shouted over the radio. Keep focusing. Remember what we are fighting for. His pilots spread out, each one projecting their own emotional field while staying close enough to amplify each other's effects. The Velthak tried to phase through the human attacks, but their phase-shifting technology kept malfunctioning whenever they came near the emotionally charged fighters. High Chancellor Vexthor watched in growing alarm as his advanced ships began falling back in confusion. What is happening? Why are our systems failing? Unknown, High Chancellor, his aide replied, fear creeping into his crystalline voice. The humans are emitting some kind of interference. Our harmonic systems cannot compensate. Impossible, Vexthor declared. They are a primitive species. Adjust our frequencies and attack with full force. The main Velthak fleet moved forward, but they were flying into a trap. Captain Hyunwoo Park commanded the orbital defense station, which was equipped with the most powerful Fury generator ever built. As the enemy ships approached Earth, he gave the signal. All defense stations, all ships, all ground forces, activate emotional amplifiers. Show them what human determination looks like. Across Earth's orbital space, hundreds of human defenders focused their minds together. They thought about their homes, their loved ones, their dreams for the future. They remembered every injustice they had ever faced and every triumph they had ever achieved. Most importantly, they felt the burning desire to protect their world from those who would enslave it. The combined emotional field was like a psychic hurricane. Velthak ships throughout the invasion fleet began experiencing cascade failures. Crystal hulls cracked. Energy weapons misfired. Communication systems produced nothing but static. Ships that had maintained perfect formation for thousands of years suddenly scattered in chaos. On the Velthak flagship, alarms blared as system after system failed. Vexthor stumbled as the ship's artificial gravity fluctuated wildly. This is impossible. How can primitive emotions affect our technology? Dr. Yuna Choi, monitoring the battle from Earth, smiled grimly as she watched the sensor readings. Because you never understood what makes humans different, she said to herself. Our chaos is not a weakness, it is our greatest strength. The space battle raged for 6 hours. Human fighters, outnumbered 10-1, used their emotional warfare to turn the Velthak's own coordination against them. When one enemy ship's systems failed, the disruption spread to nearby vessels through their harmonic communication network. Lieutenant Jae-min Lee coordinated the communication network that kept human forces synchronized. Squadron 7. Focus your emotions on grid reference Delta 4. Squadron 12. Channel your determination toward the enemy command ship. But the real surprise came when Velthak troops attempted to land on Earth's surface. Colonel Sung-Hwan Kim and Major Sun-Mi Lee had prepared their ground forces for close combat. When the crystal-armored aliens emerged from their landing ships, they expected to face primitive projectile weapons. Instead, they faced something they had never encountered. In 10,000 years of conquest, enemy soldiers who fought with pure emotional intensity at close range. The first Velthak warrior to encounter human ground troops was a veteran of dozens of campaigns. His crystal armor had never failed him, but when Sergeant Kyung-ho Jang grabbed him in hand-to-hand combat, flooding his mind with thoughts of his murdered parents and his determination to prevent more deaths, the alien's armor simply shattered. The armor is not working. The Velthak warrior screamed into his communicator before Sergeant Jang's squad overwhelmed him. Across the battlefield, the same scene repeated hundreds of times. Human soldiers, their minds blazing with protective fury and love for their world, disrupted Velthak equipment with their touch. Personal shields failed, weapons jammed. Even the aliens' crystalline bodies began to crack when exposed to intense human emotion at close range. Major Sun-Mi Lee led a charge against a Velthak command post, her soldiers moving with coordinated emotional intensity. "Remember your training," she shouted. "Feel your anger, feel your love, feel your determination. Let it flow through you." The Velthak defenders tried to maintain their harmonic battle formations, but human chaos was contagious. The more desperate the aliens became, the more their own systems began to fail. Their perfect order crumbled in the face of human emotional warfare. High Chancellor Vexthor found himself trapped on a planet where his technology barely functioned. His crystal skin was cracking from stress as he tried to understand what was happening. The harmonic frequencies that had sustained his people for millennia were being shattered by the chaotic neural emissions of angry humans. Captain Hyunwoo Park led a boarding party onto the Velthak flagship. As his team moved through the corridors, their combined emotional fields caused lights to flicker and walls to crack. They found Vexthor on his bridge surrounded by sparking, failing equipment. "Surrender," Hyunwoo said simply. "Your invasion has failed. Leave Earth now and never return." Vexthor looked at the human captain with something that might have been fear. "How? How did you primitive beings defeat our superior technology?" "Because you never understood what makes us human," Hyunwoo replied. "Our emotions, our chaos, our ability to love and hate and hope and fear. You saw these as weaknesses. But they are what make us strong." The Velthak retreat was swift and complete. Those ships that could still function fled toward the edge of the solar system. Behind them, they left nearly half their fleet disabled or destroyed by human emotional warfare. But the victory was only the beginning. In the days following the battle, Dr. Yuna Choi made a discovery that would change the galaxy forever. While studying captured Veltak databases, she found the locations of the 43 enslaved species mentioned in their historical records. "They are still alive," she told Admiral Kang excitedly. "The Veltak keep detailed records of their slave populations. The Keftari, the Zethran, the Mordak, all of them working in mines and factories throughout Veltak space." Admiral Kang looked at the star charts showing dozens of Veltak-controlled systems. "What are you suggesting, Doctor?" "I am suggesting we do not stop here," Yuna replied. "We have discovered that human emotions can disrupt their technology. We have proven that their superior civilization can be defeated. Why should we wait for them to attack us again?" The idea spread quickly through Earth's government and military. Humanity had been preparing to defend their world, but now they realized they could do more. They could free the enslaved species scattered throughout Velthak. Space Captain Hyunwoo Park was promoted to admiral and given command of the Liberation Fleet. His ships were equipped with the most advanced Fury generators and crewed by volunteers who had learned to weaponize their emotions. But these were not missions of conquest. They were missions of freedom. The first liberation mission targeted the Keftari mining world of Vexkora. The small furry aliens had been enslaved for 500 years, forced to extract rare crystals from deep underground mines. When Admiral Park's fleet arrived in the system, the Velthak garrison tried to resist, but human emotional warfare had evolved since the Battle of Earth. The fleet's emotional coordinators, led by Commander Soo-Jin Kim, synchronized the feelings of thousands of human crew members. They focused not on anger or hatred,